You're not imagining it. She remembers every small detail about you, gets weirdly quiet when you mention other women, and somehow always ends up coincidentally where you are. And yet, she avoids every deep emotional moment like it's a fire. This is not just random behavior. It's the emotional push-pull of a woman who may be in love with you, but terrified to show it. And if you don't recognize the signs, you'll either overinvest or walk away too early. In this video, I'll break down 6 key behaviors that reveal what's really going on beneath the surface, and more importantly, how to respond like a man who leads with clarity, not confusion. Some men say it's obvious. When a woman wants you, you'll know. Others believe the signs are always subtle, buried under layers of fear and past hurt. Which side are you on? Before we go deeper, hit that subscribe button and drop your take in the comments. Do you think most women send mixed signals on purpose, or are they just scared of vulnerability? I want to hear your thoughts, because your answer might reveal how you interpret female behavior and why some men keep misreading the game. Now, let's break down the first of 6 signs that might change everything you thought you knew about her. Number 1. Nervous energy. When her body speaks before her mouth does. Let me ask you something real. Have you ever stood in front of a woman and felt like she was glitching? I'm talking about the hair twirling, the shifting weight from foot to foot, the sudden burst of awkward laughter at a joke that wasn't even funny. You ask her a simple question, and she fumbles the answer. Her eyes dart away. Her hand reaches for her necklace like it's some kind of emotional seatbelt. That's not random. That's nervous energy. And it's one of the first cracks in the mask when a woman is feeling something she doesn't yet have the courage to name. But hold on, before you start planning the honeymoon in your head, let's break this down with logic. When a woman is emotionally affected by you, her nervous system responds before her rational brain does. That's Psychology 101. The presence of someone we're attracted to triggers adrenaline, dopamine, cortisol, a neurochemical cocktail that makes her heartbeat quicken and her behavior less polished. What does this mean for you? It means her body starts revealing what her mouth won't dare say. But, and this is critical, nervousness is not exclusive to romantic attraction. A woman can be nervous around someone she respects, fears, or even feels guilty around. Nervousness is simply arousal of the nervous system. The why behind it? That's what separates truth from fantasy. Here's the trap. A lot of men, especially emotionally starved ones, misread nervousness as confirmation of interest. I get it. You want to believe she's into you. But listen, confusion loves company, and hope is the most dangerous drug when you're lonely. I've seen too many men mistake anxious energy for romantic interest, only to end up humiliated or friend-zoned. So how do you tell the difference? You run a test. Observe how she behaves around others, especially men she clearly isn't attracted to. Is she equally jittery around the cashier, her coworker, her brother-in-law? If she's a naturally anxious or introverted woman, those same signs will show up across the board. But if her discomfort spikes only around you, especially in quiet, intimate settings, that's when your radar should start pinging. Even then, don't jump to conclusions. Don't rush in like a puppy chasing affection. Your job is not to decode her nervousness. It's to hold your frame. Create space where she doesn't feel the need to perform. Speak calmly. Hold eye contact without turning it into a stare down. Make it easy for her nervous system to exhale. Because if it is attraction, she'll eventually soften and start to lean in. And if it's not, well, you just dodged an emotional landmine. Here's what I want you to remember. Women don't always lie with words. Sometimes they lie with silence, and sometimes they tell the truth through nervous hands, stuttered sentences, and darting eyes. But the truth doesn't serve you unless you're strong enough to handle it without reacting like a boy who finally got noticed. Stay grounded, stay curious, and above all, don't confuse fidgeting with feelings. That's how grown men play the long game in emotional warfare. Number 2, close attention, distant eyes. When she remembers everything, except how to let you in. You ever had a woman remember your coffee order from 2 months ago, but somehow forget to reply to your last 3 texts? She compliments the way you roll up your sleeves or quote something you said offhandedly weeks ago. But the moment things start to get personal, poof, she shuts down like a fortress under threat. That's not randomness. That's calculated distance. And if you're not paying attention, it'll mess with your head. See, most men are wired to think, if she remembers me, she must like me. But memory isn't love. Attention isn't commitment. And emotional awareness doesn't always equal emotional availability. Let me be blunt. Some women observe you not because they want to love you, but because they don't want to lose control around you. There's a difference. When a woman keeps track of all the little details, the band you used to listen to, the way your mood changes when you talk about your father, the fact that you check your phone at 9 p.m. like clockwork, what she's doing is building a psychological profile of you, and that can mean 2 things. 1, she's deeply curious about you, or 2, she's preparing herself not to fall too deep. Women who've been hurt before, especially the ones who've loved and lost, develop what I call intimacy surveillance. They pay close attention, but only from behind the glass. It's like she's standing outside the house of emotional connection, admiring the architecture, but refusing to walk through the door. You talk, she listens. You open up, she nods with that soft, understanding look. But the second you say something like, "You feel like someone I could trust?" she smiles, then changes the subject. Or worse, she disappears for 3 days. Let me tell you what's really going on. She's emotionally invested, but strategically withdrawn. That's a woman who wants to feel close to you without being vulnerable to you. And that's dangerous because it traps you in limbo, thinking you're building something real, while she's only rehearsing how far she can get before her defenses kick in. Now, does this mean she's faking? Not necessarily. In fact, most of the time, it's unconscious. Her nervous system has learned that closeness equals pain. So she stays just close enough to feel connection, but not close enough to risk exposure. So how do you handle this? Simple. You don't chase her openness. You test her consistency. When she remembers something small, acknowledge it, but don't emotionally reward it. Don't fall into the trap of thinking that selective memory is proof of readiness. Instead, initiate deeper conversations intentionally. Talk about trust. Ask her how she handles conflict. Watch what happens. If she stays present, good. If she pulls away, even slightly, take note, not judgmentally, but as data. She might not be ready for the kind of man you are. And if you're looking for more than just emotional breadcrumbs, you have to honor that. Here's what I've seen ruin men again and again. They confuse her effort to understand them with permission to love her. No. Those are 2 different currencies. One is observation. The other is vulnerability. And if she's not willing to exchange the latter, you're just a beautiful distraction to her loneliness. So next time a woman shows you close attention but avoids emotional depth, don't take it as a challenge to win her over. Take it as a sign to hold your ground and let her make the next move. Because a woman who wants in, really in, won't just remember your stories. She'll start offering her own. Number 3, silent jealousy. When she hides the green-eyed monster behind polite smiles. Let me give it to you straight. Jealousy isn't always loud. It doesn't always come with drama, accusations, or eye rolls. Sometimes it shows up in polite smiles, in casually dropped questions, in the way her tone shifts ever so slightly when another woman's name enters the room. That's not coincidence. That's emotional static. And if you're not tuned in, you'll miss it. Ever hear her say something like, "So, is that coworker of yours single?" Or maybe she raises an eyebrow when you mention you had lunch with an old friend, followed by a tight-lipped smile and a quick subject change. That's not curiosity. That's veiled concern. Her mind is trying to process a threat without giving away her hand. Why the silence? Because jealousy, when suppressed, becomes subtle warfare. And women, especially the emotionally guarded ones, are masters at disguising that tension. They'll ask you about another woman like they don't care, but their energy says otherwise. Their body stiffens. Their laughter turns mechanical. The temperature drops just a little. That's the game. Here's the psychology behind it. Jealousy is a survival reflex. When someone we're emotionally attached to shows signs of resource drift, time, attention, affection, it triggers the fear of loss. But for women who are scared to show their love, acknowledging that fear feels too vulnerable. So instead, they camouflage it. They monitor. They adjust their tone. They may even try to subtly one-up the other woman in conversation. And here's where a lot of men get it wrong. They see this jealousy and immediately think, she must love me. Wrong move. Jealousy does not equal love. It can stem from fear, insecurity, ego, or even territorial instinct. Some women get jealous because they hate the idea of not being your center of attention, not because they want to earn that position. So how do you know if her jealousy is genuine emotional investment or just control in disguise? You test the fallout. Drop a minor social threat. Mention a woman you used to date or someone who complimented you recently. Watch her reaction. Does she retreat and go cold? Does she suddenly get overly sweet or competitive? Or does she lean in with curiosity, wanting to understand your connection? More importantly, does she bring it up again later? Jealousy that sticks around, that gets mentioned twice, 3 times, there's something real behind that. But if it's just a flash, gone as quickly as it came, she may just be testing her grip on you. Now here's the strategy. Don't play into it. Don't weaponize her jealousy to stroke your ego. That's what boys do. A man observes, holds frame, and responds with neutral calm. If you notice a shift in her tone, don't call it out immediately. Wait. Give her the space to either own it or bury it. Both tell you exactly what you need to know, and whatever you do, don't confuse passive jealousy with hidden affection. A woman who's falling in love may feel jealous, but she'll eventually either confess it or express it through protective behavior. A woman who's just keeping you around for validation, she'll feel the same thing, but turn it into a silent contest you didn't sign up for. Here's the cold truth. Jealousy isn't proof she wants to be yours. Sometimes it's just proof she doesn't want anyone else to have you, even if she has no intention of loving you right. Learn to tell the difference, and you'll stop falling for the wrong kind of attention disguised as emotion. Number 4, accidental presence. When she's always just around, but never available, you keep bumping into her. At the coffee shop you mentioned once, at the same friend's party she wasn't sure she'd attend. Suddenly she's watching your stories, reacting with emojis, texting, "Hey, how's your week going?" right after you post something mildly vulnerable. Coincidence? Maybe. Once. But if it starts feeling like she's orbiting your life a little too conveniently, you better pause. Because presence doesn't always equal pursuit. Let me break it down for you. There's a psychological pattern I call emotional hovering. It's when someone maintains just enough presence in your life to keep the door open, without ever stepping inside. A woman who's scared to show love but not ready to let go will often use proximity as emotional insurance. She won't make a move, but she'll make sure no one else gets too close. She might show up where she knows you'll be, acting surprised. Oh wow, small world. But her timing is too precise to be chance. She might casually offer to help you with something, just to linger in your space. She might initiate random check-ins that seem caring but avoid any emotional depth. That's not pursuit, that's positioning. Now here's where it gets tricky. Men, especially those who crave intimacy, mistake access for intention. You see her presence, her texts, her supportive comments, and you think, she's warming up to me. Maybe. But maybe not. Because emotional presence without emotional availability is like window shopping with no money. You're just looking, never buying. So what's really going on? Let's talk about emotional safety. For some women, just being near the possibility of a connection is soothing. It gives her a hit of closeness without the risk of exposure. She gets the dopamine of your presence without risking rejection. It's emotional hedging. She's not choosing you. She's choosing not to lose you yet. And here's the brutal part. This kind of behavior often isn't even malicious. It's subconscious. She may genuinely not realize she's doing it. Her heart wants connection. Her mind screams danger. So she compromises. Show up, but don't engage. Hover, but don't land. So how do you deal with it? First, test the depth, not the frequency. If she shows up often, but always keeps things light, always avoids vulnerability, that's your red flag. Start pulling back slightly. Stop responding instantly. Skip a reply or two. See if she deepens her effort or just disappears. Second, don't reward proximity. Don't pour attention into her just because she's around. That's how you trap yourself in a one-sided dynamic. Instead, hold your emotional line. Show her that your attention is earned, not gifted. And third, call the pattern if you must, but from a grounded place. Something as simple as, "I've noticed you're always around, but it feels like you're never really here. Is that intentional?" Let her respond. Her reaction will tell you everything. Here's the harsh truth, man. A woman who wants to be in your life will move through the door, not just linger outside the window. And if she keeps hovering with no real move, she's not choosing you, she's choosing access to you. And access without commitment? That's a rental agreement on your emotional real estate. Protect it. Number 5, emotional push-pull. When she opens up and then vanishes one night, you're up talking for hours. She tells you about her childhood, the pain behind her smile, the reason she never talks to her father anymore. Her eyes soften. Her voice lowers. You feel the shift. It's not small talk anymore. It's soul talk. And then, silence. The next day, she's cold, distant, maybe even slightly irritated. No explanation, no follow-up. You text her something thoughtful, and she replies with a dry, "Yeah, thanks." Just like that, she retreats, like nothing happened. Like you didn't just witness her naked truth underneath all that guarded charm. Welcome to the emotional push-pull, one of the most disorienting and addictive dynamics you'll ever experience. Let me explain what's happening under the surface. When a woman who's scared to love finally lets her walls down, even for a moment, what follows isn't always closeness. It's panic. Vulnerability triggers a fear response, because somewhere in her story, closeness equaled damage. Maybe she was betrayed. Maybe she gave too much to someone who gave nothing back. Whatever the history, your presence stirred something in her. And her subconscious went into defense mode, so she pulls away, not because you did something wrong, but because the intimacy you created felt like standing too close to a cliff edge, thrilling but terrifying. Now, here's where most men lose themselves. They chase, they feel the bond, they want more of that openness, so they start pushing. "Are you okay? Did I say something wrong? Talk to me." And the more they push, the further she retreats. Why? Because now you've confirmed her fear. Emotional intimacy means pressure. Let me be clear, this doesn't mean she doesn't feel something for you. On the contrary, the fact that she pulled away might be because it felt too real. But real doesn't always equal ready. So how do you respond? You do the exact opposite of what your emotional instincts tell you. Instead of chasing, you pause. You mirror her energy. If she backs up, you hold your ground. You don't punish her. You don't disappear to play games, but you don't reward the pullback either. Because here's what you need to understand. If this push-pull becomes a pattern and you keep participating in it, you're not in a relationship. You're in an emotional loop, and emotional loops never lead to emotional growth. They lead to confusion, dependency, and eventually resentment. Now let me give you a strategic lens. Every time she opens up and then withdraws, that's data. Observe how long she stays distant. What triggers her return? Does she acknowledge the withdrawal? Does she act like nothing happened? Does she try to re-engage on a surface level? Or does she pick up where you left off emotionally? If she starts showing patterns, intimacy followed by disappearance, connection followed by coldness, and it happens more than twice, that's your cue. This isn't just fear, it's emotional chaos. And unless she's actively working on herself, you'll drown trying to save her. Here's the bottom line. A woman who opens up and then consistently vanishes isn't testing you. She's testing herself. Your role is not to prove you're safe. Your role is to remain stable without needing constant validation from her. Because if she's meant to move forward with you, she'll find her way back, not out of guilt, not out of pressure, but out of emotional maturity. But if she keeps retreating, let her go. You're not here to be a landing pad for someone afraid to fly. Number 6, silent support. When she shows love in actions, not words. She doesn't flirt. She doesn't confess. She doesn't send late-night texts with heart emojis. But when you're sick, she checks in. When you've got an important day, she remembers. When you seem off, she asks. Not publicly, not dramatically, but quietly, subtly, consistently. And that can hit harder than any declaration. This is the kind of woman who doesn't say, "I love you." She shows it. In reminders, in help, in showing up when it matters. The kind of love that's less fireworks, more fireplace, warm, steady, comforting, but also confusing as hell. Because silence can be sacred, or it can be strategic. Let's unpack that. Women who love in quiet ways often carry emotional scars. Maybe they were punished for being too much in the past. Maybe they were taught that love is something you do, not something you say. So instead of vulnerability, they express care through usefulness. Support becomes their love language, but it also becomes their shield. Here's where it gets murky. Just because a woman supports you doesn't mean she's ready to receive your love. Some women play the nurturer role to feel safe, not to build intimacy. They'll help you move apartments, listen to your problems, remind you to eat. But the second you try to bring that closeness full circle, they pull away. Why? Because for them, being useful is safe. Being vulnerable is not. And here's what I need you to understand. Nurturing is not always invitation. Sometimes it's just conditioning. Some women grew up believing their worth came from being needed, not being seen. So they pour into others while keeping themselves emotionally off limits. You need to test it. Next time she supports you in a quiet way, respond with something emotionally sincere, not heavy, just real. Try. "I really appreciate you remembering that. Means a lot." Then pause. Watch her reaction. Does she receive it, deflect it, change the subject? Even more telling, try sharing something vulnerable in return, something personal. If she leans in, you're building something mutual. If she dodges, masks it with humor, or goes silent, she might not be emotionally available no matter how thoughtful she seems. Here's the trap most men fall into. They mistake silent support for emotional readiness. You think, "She's always there for me, maybe she's just waiting for me to make a move." But that assumption will cost you if you're wrong. Because what she might really be doing is offering emotional labor without emotional risk. And let me say this with love, but with force. You are not here to be mothered. A woman caring for you does not automatically mean she's ready or even capable of being your partner. Sometimes her care is her way of managing herself, not investing in you. So what's the move? Respect the gesture, appreciate her support, but don't project intention onto it. Stay grounded. Don't fill in the blanks she's not writing. If her actions are the only thing you're holding on to, without emotional reciprocity, clarity, or progress, you're clinging to hope, not building connection. Silent love can be the most powerful thing you ever feel, or the most painful misunderstanding you ever fall for. Know which one you're living. You've seen the signs, the nervous hands, The distant eyes, the silent jealousy, the perfectly timed appearances, the emotional push-pull, the quiet acts of care, all of it. And now you're probably wondering, so, does she love me? But that's the wrong question. The right question is, does her behavior align with someone who's ready, available, willing to choose me clearly, not cautiously? Because here's the truth, hard and cold as it may be, a woman can love you and still not move toward you. She can feel something real and still leave you in the dark. She can offer warmth with one hand while keeping the door locked with the other. That's not evil. That's fear. But as a man, your job is not to interpret her fears. It's to protect your clarity. Love isn't a guessing game. It's not about decoding subtle glances or stringing together half gestures into a fairy tale. It's about mutual movement, clear signals, safe emotional exchange. And until she brings that to the table, consistently, courageously, without needing you to fill in the blanks, your role is to observe, not invest, appreciate, not assume, respect, but refrain. Because here's what no one tells you. A woman's indecision can look a lot like intimacy, if you're starved enough. So be honest with yourself. Don't cling to potential. Don't overvalue signals that aren't followed by substance. And most of all, don't project commitment onto a connection she's still too scared to claim. You don't need someone who flinches at closeness. You need someone who chooses it, with you, not just near you. And if you've ever been stuck in that emotional limbo, wondering if she's in love or if you're just imagining it, I want to hear from you. Drop your story in the comments. No shame, no filters, just truth. And if you're ready to stop playing blindfolded in the emotional game and start leading with clarity, power, and emotional control, subscribe now. Because this isn't just about women, it's about you becoming the kind of man who no longer needs to guess,